Today we have Dr. Sandeep Mohanal. He is currently working as a senior researcher at the University of Nottingham in the G2 TRC division. His research current research area is CFD in the field of multi-phase flows related to aero engines. Sandeep did his BTech in mechanical engineering from LBS College of Engineering, Kasaragod in 2006, securing university second rank. Masters and PhD was done from IIT Madras in the mechanical engineering stream with a focus on CFD. He has more than 10 years of industrial experience as a CFD engineer in the automotive industry. Okay, Sandeep, please.
Yes. Thank you very much, Suraj sir. I hope you can see my screen. So today, the topic from my side is CFD as a research and a design tool, especially for the industrial application. And so I would start with a brief introduction to CFD, those who are completely new to CFD, but those who are already aware of CFD and its use, please bear with me. So for those who are completely new, who don't, or it's a complete new topic. So what is CFD? CFD is basically it's a numerical technique. It's basically computational fluid dynamics, and it's a science of predicting fluid flow, heat transfer, mass transfer, chemical reactions, or whatever these kind of transport phenomena. So we are using the advantage of computing or the computer, and we solve all these physical phenomena. And this will be very helpful for especially for industrial applications and a lot of academic purpose. So how does it work actually? So we have the physics. Physics is whatever we see, we feel, we know, like fluid is flowing or something is getting, you can feel the heat. So all these things, what we know. So we have to find a way to do some kind of understanding it. So to deeply understand this physics, what we will do is you have to convert all this physics, what you see, in the form of mathematics. So you have to convert in the form of partial differential equations, which are basically the governing equations. And these partial differential equations or the mathematics which you have, with the physics which you have already converted to mathematics, you have to now solve it with the help of computers. So that is how the core of CFD lies in that part where you are going to solve it with the help of computers. And there are several numerical techniques like finite difference method, finite volume method, finite element method, etc. Which these are the computational methods which you will apply on this partial differential equation and which can be solved later on. Otherwise, the problem is with partial differential equation we have very limited solutions. Only very few cases we have exact solutions, especially for fluid dynamics and these kind of related flows. So that is why we have to do computer simulations or computer numerical methods to solve these equations, which are more or less approximate solution. They are not exact solution, but they are approximate solution, but we will get solution out of it. And then you have to convert this in the form of somehow you have to visualize the physics back again. So this is called the post-processing part, where whatever numerical solution you get out of this computer simulation, we have to do some numerical the visualization of this data. So again, you can understand the physics or how the fluid is flowing, or whether there is some vortex, what is the temperature difference, and all those things we can again visualize with the help of softwares and basically with the help of computer. So this is the basic layout, how it works. So what is the advantage of this? This is CFD will be actually a very, you can substitute most of the experiments with the help of CFD. So that is the biggest advantage, which is actually happening in the last couple of decades, where a lot of improvement happened with the computing world as well as in the world of CFD, or in the world of fluid mechanics, where more and more research is happening. So this is basically is trying to eliminate more and more expensive measurements, and this will be of very good advantage for the industry, because you cannot afford to do a lot of experiments for each and every changes of your designs. So this is one of the major advantage of CFD, and that is why people, especially in the industry, why people are looking for the CFD, and there is a special department in the R&D for this as CFD engineers, or who are working on this special field. So now how does it work? I mean, it is nice to know with the block diagram, okay, we have physics, we are converted to mathematics, then solve it and all. So let us see it with a very simple example just to have an idea of how it works. So for example, if you are interested in a problem like this, something, it's a very complicated problem, but somebody is smoking a cigarette. Uh, it has a lot of fluid dynamics associated with it. So you can associate similar any kind of problem with which is involved in involving fluid flow or something involving heat transfer and all those things. I mean, we can relate it with this very simple problem. So what you are interested here, you're interested only the fluid flow here. I mean, which is the smoke coming out of the cigarette. Similarly, any industrial problem or any other problem, you can directly relate wherever your focus area is, like wherever there is fluid flow or heat transfer or chemical reaction. So you have to just focus on that particular area. So in the same way, the same first step will be you have to you have to find out your domain of interest. So yeah, this is our domain of interest. You have to just cut out this part and just focus on this particular area. Okay, so here if you if you carefully look, I mean, you can see that the smoke coming out of the cigarette, something very near to the cigarette, the tip of the cigarette, it's laminar flow. Then if you see a little bit away from it, the physics again changes. So these are all the physics associated with this particular problem. You have turbulent flow. Then you have phase change happening, because whenever there is combustion, so normally combustion happens in the gas phase. So you have to convert from solid converts to liquid is converting to gas, and then gas is undergoing combustion. So you have this phase change phenomena happening, which is again a very complicated multi-phase phenomena. Then you have combustion happening, which is basically involving a lot of the chemical kinetics, a lot of chemical reactions are happening in that particular, when there is combustion happens. Then you have heat transfer. So there is heat getting transferred from the tip of this cigarette where it is burning. So it gets also transferred through conduction through the solid part. Then you also have heat transfer at the top. You can see it is purely based on natural convection. There is a density gradient. The cigarette is getting transported to the atmosphere because there is a density gradient, and because of that, it is the fluid is getting transported at the top. So again, heat transfer due to natural convection. And several other more physics will be there, but which we are not addressing right now. So basically, all these physical phenomena which is happening here, you have to convert, or you have to, when you are modeling it in the form of CFD, you have to put, or you have to get all the mathematical equations for this, basically the partial differential equations or the governing equations. And these governing equations you have to solve or with the help of computer. Yeah, so the step is the partial differential equation, as I told earlier. It is difficult to get, you cannot find an exact solution. Only very few cases are there, which are very simple cases where you have the exact solution. Otherwise, you have to go for this computational method. So you have to discretize these partial differential equations, first of all, and also discretize the domain. So two kind of discretization will be there. You have to discretize, or you have to make smaller pieces of the geometry. And also you have to discretize the equation where you are converting partial differential equation to algebraic equation, and then solve it with the help of computer. You will get the result and then analyze this physics, which is in detail. So ideally, what you are doing is you are basically solving the laws of nature, mostly conservation of mass, conservation of momentum, which is basically the Newton's second law, and conservation of energy. So it will, when you are talking about fluid flow, it is not as same as solid, which is much more easier to handle. But here we have something which is flowing. So our equations are more, a little bit more complicated, but basically it involves some unsteady part, some convection part, some diffusion part, and some and a generation term. So this is the general, the governing equation, you can say. So if you put this phi as 1, you will get it as continuity equation. If you put it u, you get x momentum, then y momentum, z momentum, and the energy equation. So this is the basic equations which we are going to solve. And apart from that, in certain special cases, you have some additional equation to solve this chemical reaction. There may be also some supporting equations for maybe how the density is varying. So equation of state. So all those additional equations may come, but this is the basic structure how the most of the problems will be solved. So you have this is the basic equations or the concept, I mean the governing equations, and you will be solving it on the grid or the discretized geometry. So we need to also discretize the geometry along with the discretization of the equation. So where you will be solving on each control volume where, or the cell which you call in the CFD term. So each of this control volume or the cell in that you will be solving these equations. And so each of these cells, so you have to solve all these equations. So it depends, like if your geometry is too complicated, then you may have millions of cells, and you may end up you should have such kind of computing resource. You cannot run it in your laptop, so you have to switch to bigger workstations or HPC or high performance computing clusters or supercomputers like that. So depending on the problem and the complexity of the problem, you have to switch your level of solving. So now that is the basic idea of how a CFD, I mean how to solve a CFD problem or any kind of fluid mechanics or heat transfer problem using CFD. So what are the advantages of CFD over experiments? So initially in the first slide I just showed you that we can eliminate a lot of experiments. You can use CFD to eliminate many experiments. So what are the advantages of CFD over experiments? So the main thing is you can visualize things which an experiment cannot do. For example, you cannot really visualize what is happening every nook and corner of your prototype or whatever we are experimenting. So you have to have special cameras. You may have to have lasers. You have, if you want to have some probing in some places, you have to put some sensors, temperature sensors, pressure sensors, and so. So they are all together. It will be all quite complicated, and also there will be limitations. Like you cannot probe everywhere, because if you put a sensor everywhere, that also can affect your fluid flow. That will be interfering with the fluid flow. So there are a lot of difficulty in experiment, but experiment is the truth. Experiment is always true. So we need to do experiments. There is no doubt that we have to eliminate experiment. That part I will come back. But advantage of CFD is you can visualize everything. You can cut and post process any portion. You can think. I mean, you can if you are only solving for velocity and pressure, also you can do all the second derivatives, or several derivatives, so you can find the gradients of velocity. You can derive a new variable out of your primitive variables. So all these things are possible in CFD. So that is one of the major advantage. And also the second advantage is it is risk free to analyze dangerous setups. For example, nuclear reactor. You cannot really do a lot of experiments in nuclear reactor. So and there are several other even an IC engine, which looks like a doable thing, but it's actually a reliable bomb. So every time it is undergoing combustion, and we are very quite happy to sit in the car because we know that it is not going to hurt us, but it is actually a bomb which is blasting every moment. So in that also, if you are doing an experiment, which is, or we are conducting some kind of new research in some kind of an engine, that is also not certain, so that it can have some accidents. So a lot of things can be possible. So you can eliminate several rounds of such experiments, and you can try to minimize those experiments, and then finally maybe on the optimized experiment you can optimized design, you can do these experiments. So these are some of the advantages, like risk free. It is you don't have the risk of or the danger of getting hurt by these kind of experiments, and it is less expensive compared to experiments. So less expensive in the sense you don't need to have the hardware, you don't need to. So if you are changing some very small design variation in the industry point of view, for example, you want to change some fluid flow is there through some duct or something, and you just want to change an angle a little bit, some 30 degrees to 40 degrees or something like that. what will happen is you have to completely remanufacture everything, and then you have to change it to 30 to 40 or 35 degree, and then maybe it is very simple design change, but you have to prove it through experiment. So you have to procure this. You have to find your vendor. You have to make a prototype. You have to test it, and so it involves a lot of cost. So what CFD can do is, instead of making such experiments, what you can do is you can have several experiments. Like the idea was just to change the angle of some angle in the design. So let's say 30, and you are thinking that maybe 50-degree or 45-degree may be better. So in CFD, you can just change the design 30 to 50, maybe 10 or 20 variants, and then test it in CFD, and you find that maybe one or two or maybe around 40-degree it is getting better flow, or it is having minimum loss or something like that. Then you can directly prototype that particular range, and then save all these experiments. I mean, otherwise you have to do 10 experiments. So in that way, it is very, it is very helpful for industry to reduce the cost, especially this R&D cost. And the other possibility is optimization. I mean, you can optimize the design. The possibility to optimize the design is very much there. Like for example, I mean, some design parameter you are interested. So you can say that my output should be like this, and let my design change accordingly. So you can give and optimize it. There are several tools where you can give it as a parameter. Then what it will do is it will try to change all this parameter, try to give you the output which you are desiring. So you let's say I want a flow rate of some value, some x value. So to get that x value, you are ready to change several parameters in your design, certain things. So you can optimize, like you just keep all this as a parameter and let the solver take control over it. So it will be like several design of experiments, DOEs. It will do all these DOEs, and you can get your optimized design out of it. So all these are the possibilities of CFD. And now what is happening is, now with CFD, with the advantage of this machine learning and artificial intelligence, so these new developing area is also getting integrated with CFD, and that is also going to help a lot in improving certain CFD techniques, the way in which we are going to do the simulation. Plus, in the next few years, the quantum computing is going to be a reality, and maybe we can reduce the dependence on high performance computing cluster, etc. I mean, we can solve it with very very limited computing resource. So these are all the possibilities of CFD in the future. And one thing which I want to emphasize is CFD is not a replacement for experiments, and it is actually a complementary to each other, because CFD, you have to always validate your model. Sometimes, not sometimes, every time there will be deviation from CFD result to the reality. The thing is, because inside CFD there are a lot of modeling. Turbulence is also modeled. So several things you're approximating. So you need to fine tune all these models. So there may be some parameters to be fine tuned. So, or maybe you need to improve your mesh, and so many things can happen. So that all things are done with the help of experiment. So you may have to have a base or a benchmark experiment, or a baseline design, where you have to do the experiment, you have to do the CFD, and validate that your CFD result is perfect. I mean, there is no big deviation, maybe 5 to 10% deviation is there. Then once you have confidence, then you can do all your other CFD simulations, design variations, and all other things. And so that in that way, CFD is going to be complementary to experiment. It is not going to be a replacement. That should be kept in mind, because people think that CFD, I can do everything in CFD. That is not the reality. Now coming to our topic as a design and research tool. So in industry, there are two. These are the two major application of CFD. So it's basically used for design for the product development stage, for the design purpose, and also for as a research tool. Now, design in the sense, so design can be, for example, when you are Normally in the industry you have a design team who are mainly involving in developing the CAD and the geometric tolerance and all. They will take care of all those things, and also they will be interfacing with the manufacturing team, where they will say that okay, my design, this is the going to be the design. So and along with this design team, there will be the analysis team. So you have the FEA and CFD and also the experimentalist. So these three teams are also going to work very close to the with the design team. So there are several possibilities for a designer. For example, and also this analysis team, there is a special team. Normally, if they are part of this CFD or FEA, they are basically the system developers or system analysis engineers, where they will be doing the 1D simulation. They will try to integrate all the components together. For example, if it is an engine, then you have the injector, you have combustion chamber, you have the piston movement. So all the dynamics, all the so everything put together, they will be analyzing. Okay, so there are several tools like MSIM kind of tools are there. So each and everything, how it is going to analyze, how it is going to behave dynamically. So for those purpose also, you need the support of CFD, because sometimes you need a character, some valve is there. You need to know how the fluid flow is happening through this valve. You have to model that valve for the 1D purpose. So CFD team supports this design engineers. For example, let's see an example. So this is an impeller design. So let's say this is for a pump. Okay, so in the beginning, you as a designer, so designers are normally very experienced people in the company, and they know how to for some particular application, so particular flow rate, some or particular so whatever be your design. So one customer may need it X as his output or whatever he needs, and another customer may need it as Y. So based on that, as a designer, you have to always change your designs. So you have to have so accordingly you have to change your blade design or your say whatever is your design parameter. So the basic design he knows from the calculations, hand calculations. There will be some design set like in our machine design textbook. So there are certain way how to. So if you want to design a spring, you know this is the equation of the spring and so and so. So you have the basic set of equations and some empirical correlations from which the basic design will be done. So to get so and so flow rate, this is the basic design. So the thing is, you are competing with your another competitor. So if you are a product company, for example, you are selling, you are going to sell a pump like this, and you have another company who are also going to sell a pump, and you are competing with these two. These two people are going to compete with some to the end customer. So there will be the end customer will be always looking for cost. Okay, I need a minimum cost, and the second thing they will be looking at is the better performance. So performance and all, so already the design is already will be good, but when there are three options given to you, you will be always looking, okay, who is the better one? So maybe he is 2% or 3% better than the other one. So you may look for that when the cost is same. So as a company, when you are thinking about product company, it is all about competition. So you have to be that 1%, 2% better than the other guy. So your design should be the optimum design. So for example, here you can see you may have to change the design little bit here and there to get a better performance. So that can be all done with the help of CFD. So the design engineer will transfer his job to his transfer his design to the CFD engineers, and he will ask, okay, optimize my design, or try to change the design. What are all your opinion? Where are some losses happening? Maybe if it is in the case of a pump, maybe if there is something like cavitation which is going to erode, remove the material. So can you avoid all those things? So how to avoid? So all those questions will come to picture. So CFD engineer can help in that particular stage called the design stage, or where you are going to develop the product. But you already know like how to design it, how to make it, but you are slightly changing the design. So there is nothing like out of the box thinking, but you are going to change a little bit here and there, and that is a routine kind of a job where CFD engineer will be involved. Another place CFD engineer will be involved is, as I told, a 1D simulation. When the system developer is going to make, a system engineer is going to make everything dynamic simulation, or understand how every component is going to behave in as a system point of view. There he may need some kind of some characteristics. So where every small things you cannot do experiments and check how it is going to, like say some wall or some heat transfer happening in some component. You cannot do everything experiments. So that point of time, he will be also checking with the CFD engineer. Okay, please do a component level simple CFD simulation. Get me the characteristic out of that so that I can put it in the 1D simulation, which is more and more or less realistic. Otherwise, he will have to do some assumptions and do some kind of approximation. So to make it better, the system engineer also will be getting in touch with the CFD engineer to do this kind of design work. So this is another example of a turbine blade optimization. So you may have a first design or baseline design, then you from where you can do all those design variations to optimize your design. So these are all the routine kind of job, which will be there for a product development company. So when you are making a new product, or when your product is already done, let's say you call it product M01 or something like that, there will be a design, a code will be there for the product. Now you have a new customer, and customer will have, every customer will have its own demands. So when he will say that, okay, I need your product, for example an injector of a IC engine. So he will say everything is fine, but my engine is slightly different from the other engine, and you just need to optimize the injector for that. So that in that point of time, you have to do, your basic product will be ready, but you have to do all these design optimization, some kind of fine tuning to match that particular application. So this is one part of this job for the CFD engineer. Now the second part is all about research. So research, where it comes to picture, is when you are trying to start a completely new product. So you have, for example, you need to build a product for, now the emerging field for our mechanical engineers is uh, you're thinking about electrification. So when electrification is going to, there are going to be several products which are going to be inside that. And I mean, nowadays most of the companies are new to it. Even the topmost company you take for automobile, any company like Mercedes or any Volkswagen or Tata, Mahindra, any company, they are also new to this electrification. Okay, there may be a little bit research done earlier, but when you come to the new technology, most of them are in the same page. So you need to do a new product development altogether. So that time, this CFD tool is going to help in the design, I mean, the development stage. And also another application for the research is like when you have some problem, like you may end up having some problem in your product, and you never know what is the reason for the problem, because unless you solve that problem, you cannot go for, I mean, you cannot improve your product. That at the time also you may have to end up with a research project. So research project will be lengthy projects in the industry point of view. So it involves in university tie-ups. It will be involving PhD students. It will be involving master students. It will be involving several internships, and along with that, so many engineers and so many researchers will be working on that particular problem. So I'll show you an example. This is my own PhD problem, which I was doing when I was working in Continental Automotive in Bangalore. So this was a research problem. Like there is some a problem with the GDI injector nozzle, and we need to do some kind of understand why it is happening. So this is completely new, because otherwise, and there are no papers, there are no publications in that area. Maybe our competitors at that point of time would have done something, but there is nothing is available in the public domain. So this was completely new, and you have to solve it with the help of experiments, with the help of CFD and whatnot. Every resource you have to apply for that, because otherwise you cannot compete with your other competitors and sell your product. So, for example, I will go in deep to this, because this today's talk I will be focusing on that example as the main example, and with that I will be explaining this design and research tool, how with this particular problem it was addressed, or that problem was solved. So this is something called a purging, or what is happening inside an injector, GDI injector nozzle after the end of injection, right? Because this is something to do with the carbon deposit formation, and I will get back to this topic soon. And another thing is cavitation erosion. So cavitation is quite, I mean, it is a known phenomenon. It is happening inside many hydraulic devices like water pumps and several other applications. But they, and you can also you can model cavitation in CFD. You can easily see where it is going to cavitate, because it is all about negative pressure, or wherever there is the drop of pressure below its vapor pressure. So that was possible, or that is very easy to model and see, okay, these are the area which is going to cavitate. But there is, in the CFD tools, there is no way to know where it is going to erode. Okay, cavitation you can see there, it can be some bubbles forming in some region, but it may not be this region it is going to erode. So erosion happens something little bit different at some other location. And there was no CFD tool like Fluent or CFX, which are all in the as a commercial tool in the market. There is no way to do this kind of prediction. So you have to develop your own method. You have to do your own research. You have to find your own methodology to capture all those things, and do experiments and all those things. So this is why it is more as a research tool. So where in which you have to do everything from scratch, and then the outcome of this research tool is, okay, first of all, it's a new product, and sometimes it is also like you will be developing a CFD methodology where you can again further use it for design purpose. So you have 10 designs, you will do all this research in newly developed methodology, newly developed tool. You use that tool and say that, okay, out of this 10 design, this is the one going to be better. So these kind of things, this is what actually design and research, so both will play together, like in the long term, in the research environment in the company. So, and before that, just to have a brief idea of what are the different CFD tools commonly used in the industry for the measuring purpose, which is the pre-processing. So there are several tools like, ISEM CFD, Grid Pro, Turbo Grid, ANSYS Workbench, and nowadays inside Fluent itself there is a meshing capability, Fluent meshing, and then there are other tools like HyperMesh and things like that. So these are all the commercial tools which are normally used in the industry, okay, for meshing these kind of complicated geometries. And this is also very important phase, like this pre-processing part is also very important phase, especially in the industry point of view, because when you're looking for academic projects, academic problems, we will be all dealing with simple geometries, or mostly very simplified geometry, and we will be focusing only on the physics part of it. But when it is coming to industry, it is all about real geometry, real applications. We are not thinking about some simplified geometry. And so in that point of time, in that point of view, you have to be able to mesh all these complications in the geometry. So learning this part, like meshing uh, uh, with the help of these kind of tools, are also very important, especially for those academicians who are interested to take up projects from industry. So I understand this topic is all about, or these talks are all about, for the mainly for the for professors or who are in the academics, and especially if you are going to take some projects from industry. So what will happen is most of the industrial projects will have this kind of complicated geometry, and this aspect of meshing is also going to be very important, because that tool or that capability is also important, because that is something which the industry also will be interested to know. Can you do the meshing for me, or can you do this kind of job? So the first part is how complicated the geometry will be. Okay, so that part is also important when it is coming to the tie-up between industry as well as academia. And the second part is about the CFD solver. So there are several solvers, like commercial solvers like ANSYS Fluent, CFX, IcePack, Flowtherm. For example, ANSYS Fluent is a very general purpose CFD software. Any kind of, most of the CFD problems can be addressed with ANSYS Fluent. And the advantage of ANSYS Fluent is you have something called UDF, where you can, if at all Fluent is not having that capability, and what you can do, you can write your own code, you can develop your own code with the help of this UDF, or it's a user defined function which is written in C language. So you can create your own code and then compile, you can add it along with Fluent and make this Fluent much more stronger. In that way, you don't need to think that, okay, what is the academic point? Most of the time, when, for example, some professors are thinking about doing a work with industry, so they will be thinking about the for them the priority will be about publications. Their priority will be whether my student will can he have a thesis which where there are something innovative, something completely new. So when you are using this kind of tool, Fluent, for example, you can always think about improving the solver. So Fluent is already a CFD solver, but it has several limitations. So you can think about adding all these additional subroutines or additional all this whatever some several applications. You can add all those things. So with the help of CFD, with the help of UDF. So this UDF, it can be a paper. So when you are writing a UDF, so this is anyway completely new. So that can be a publication. That can be also a new to or a new contribution to the society. And in that, and another software is ANSYS CFX. And another, this is again a general purpose software, but CFX is normally used for turbo machinery applications. So when it is related to turbo machines like pump and and all these gas turbines. So here CFX, because the CFX is having a lot of additional features which can address this turbo machine problems. So it is more, it's more familiar with in the turbo machine industry. Then you have software especially for the thermal management called IcePack. So when you are dealing with design and research of, for example, the new development area like the electrification. So electrification involves several heating issues, because it is, for example, battery cooling. You need to cool this electronic devices. So several electronic devices are going to come. Several electrical devices are going to come. Motors, electric motors. So how to cool all those things and how to, because if it is all getting heated up, the thing is, first of all, it will be having discomfort with the passenger. That is one part. Another part is the efficiency of this complete automobile will be down. For example, electronic cooling, why it is important is like it's all about semiconductors. So when you have a heating of the semiconductors, the purpose of semiconductor itself will be going down. So there won't be any movement of these electrons and this. So in the electronic point of view, it is also very bad. So you have to keep the temperature low. So in that purpose, ANSYS, IcePack, Flowtherm, so these are all used for thermal management. And another very important tool is the OpenFOAM, which I've seen that there is already a talk completely based on OpenFOAM. So this is something which is also very helpful for especially academic point of view, because it is a free software. It is an open source. So OpenFOAM is also getting popular in the industry these days. But thing is, industries always will be preferring this kind of commercial tools than OpenFOAM or open source, because it will be more dependent on the user. That is the main problem. Because see, OpenFOAM, somebody if you want to get familiarized with OpenFOAM, you will be using it and you will be also writing your own subroutines. So many things you will be writing, and it will be very difficult to transfer this knowledge to another person if that particular engineer is going to leave the company. So in that way, the complete research or complete program itself will be stuck. So that is the biggest, very big risk in the industry. So they completely avoid these kind of open sources because of that. That is the main reason. Okay, and the other and also there will be limited support. So when it comes with the open source softwares, you will not have that kind of support. You should be already very technically very strong. So if you face some issues, you may not be having right support to handle it. But when it comes for commercial tools, there will be so many people, that support engineers who will be there to address your problem. That is one thing why industry is preferring these commercial tools, and academia also need to look into that point of view, that you should also work with industrial tools and try to bridge the gap. And so for the post processing, you have ANSYS, CFD post, the post processor, then Nsight, then you have ParaView. ParaView is especially used for OpenFOAM. So these are all the things which are possible for the tools which which you in the which is essential for CFD simulations, and will be also very essential for academia to know this, especially for the students and also for the researchers who are working in the academic field to work on. Okay, so now let me, as I told in the beginning, let me come back to that topic of illustration of this research or design tool on a one particular application. So the point here is about GDI injector. And this was again a part of, I'm putting several of these slides are based on my PhD, which was done at IIT Madras in collaboration with the Continental Automotive. So this was a problem of Continental Automotive. So, so GDI engine, everyone knows, like you have a combination of SI and diesel engine, and there are this GDI engine application was getting more and more focused because diesel was going out of the focus, and electrification was coming into picture. So hybrid vehicle where you already have a GDI engine and also you have IC engine. In that point of view, GDI engine was getting more and more market. So it was the market forecast also was like GDI is going to improve a lot and diesel is going to diminish. And okay, electrification is anyway going to gain momentum later on in next decades. But whenever there is hybrid, which is an easy solution, mild hybrid or little bit, these kind of hybrids, you always require GDI engines, which are less noisy, which are compact, smaller engines than a diesel engine. So the problem, I'll just talk about this problem. The problem which it started, you can see this is an engine. This is an experiment. And here on the top, you can see there is a yellow flame near the injector. So this is a spark plug on the left side, and the one in the dotted circle here is the injector. So you have both spark plug as well as injector in a GDI engine. So you're seeing the yellow flame near the injector, and whenever there is yellow flame, it is indication of soot or emission issues. So, or basically there is no proper combustion is not happening there, and it is going to have some kind of sooting or some kind of black carbon deposits. So the first question was why it was happening and so the thing is, it could be because there is some kind of wetting happening in this area, because when there is liquid and which is not atomized properly, it can have these kind of issues. And because that you can also see on the combustion chamber on the piston ball, where you have this yellow flame, because that is where you're going to hit a lot of liquid on the piston ball, where you will have this kind of wetting. So the possible solution is you have to somehow avoid this wetting. Okay, so this was something which came out of this experiment. The purpose of this experiment was not to look at here, but some other point of view. But you have seen this happening in this experiment. But in the field, what we are also seeing is we have a lot of issue with the nozzle, injector nozzle. You see, this is the tip of the. So this is the injector. So for example, I'll go back. So this is a GDI injector. Okay, so injector will have some actuation system. You have some kind of piezoelectric actuation system, which will be opening and closing and a needle inside. And at the end, you will be injecting gasoline or petrol inside the engine. So this is a tip. The bottom side, you can see the bottom left corner. This is the tip of the injector. So this is a nozzle, or the tip, or the GDI nozzle, where you have a bowl, a needle which is opening up and down, and you have a seat, and this is the hole, nozzle hole through which you will be injecting out the particles, or this spray. Now the problem is there is a lot of tip sooting happening, the deposit formation happening on the tip of this nozzle, which is coming from the as there could be several reasons. There maybe is incomplete combustion. There could be some kind of wetting happening. Some liquid is on the tip, and over time it is getting deposited. So the problem with this is after some time, what will happen is it will get deposited, and it will form a layer, and then it will burst and it will come out in the engine. then your emission, there will be a lot of problem with the emission. You cannot meet the emission standard. So the stringent emission standard you cannot meet. And another problem is it will be also getting deposited inside the hole. And see, you can see here, it is also called as coking. And when it is on the tip, it is called tip shooting. So the issue with that is you will be blocking your injector hole, and then you will be injecting very less amount of gasoline or petrol inside your engine. And at the end, you will have less flow rate, or you will have flow loss, or I mean, engine power itself will be low because you're giving only less fuel inside the engine. So because of this, this is a major issue and need to be addressed. And the problem is this is something completely new. There was no other, no way to understand why it is happening. There was, and people are all working on that area. So this is a kind of a research problem now. So then company need to formulate it as a research problem, because you cannot do something like 2 months, 3 months, or 5 months kind of a project and just solve this issue. So there will be several PhDs associated with. So I was working in the company and I took up a PhD because it will be anyway as a research topic and a long-term project. So I just took this as my PhD topic. So I was working on understanding why it is all happening. And there is another PhD student in France who was working on the chemistry part of it. So how the chemistry is all happening on this. So he was doing all those experiments and things related to chemistry. There was another student and inside our own department in another location who was working on the thermal point of view, the evaporation and other aspects of this gasoline spray, because it's a gasoline is a multi-component fuel which is quite complicated in nature. So it is not like one component inside, it is like a combination of several alkanes and so it is not one particular component but mixture of several things. So each of them are, one of them may be very highly volatile, one will evaporate a little bit later, and so you need to also understand the property of this fuel. So one guy was working on, or one engineer was working on that topic. So this is how a research problem will be set up. So several people will be attacking on the same problem, and everything will be associated with some universities. So mine was with IIT Madras. So in France, it was with another university. So one person in the USA, it was with another university. So all these people at different location of this company, you are associated with several universities and all working towards one problem to solve it. So this was my topic, and where to address what is happening inside this nozzle and understand the physics point of view and come out with a design to address that. So the different possibilities inside this were, one thing which can be done is cavitation. We always know that it is going to erode material. When in the point of pump or even in the point of injector, in some point of in diesel injector point of view, it is all about erosion of material, because cavitation is very damaging phenomenon. The bubbles will come near the wall, it will collapse and it will erode. But here the thinking was, can we use this erosion phenomena for self-cleaning? Can it clean all this carbon deposit by itself? Maybe we have to make it a little bit mild. The cavitation can be controlled in some way. Can it be used for cleaning? So that was one phenomena which need to be, but for that you need to know how cavitation erosion is happening. You need to know how to model it, which are all not available in the literature, or which are not available in the commercial tools like Fluent. So you need to develop your own tools. You need to develop your own methods to understand this. So that will become a topic altogether for research for a couple of years. Then you have purging, or this is something which is leading to deposit formation. So purging and film formation. So how this thin film is formed when the injector is completely getting closed. Maybe some leaking is happening and then getting closed. But to know that also, there is no method available in CFD at that point of time, because injector, you can imagine the injector hole is something like 100 micrometer, which is like our hair, the thickness of our hair. So such a very tiny thing, and inside that you have this needle and all, which is moving up and down and then closing. So and the geometry itself is too complicated because it is very, very, very tiny. You can see only through microscope the details of it. And the second thing is, you have issue with the multi-phase flow. You have gasoline is there, which is a liquid. You have vapor formation of gasoline, which is gaseous phase. You have air from the engine cylinder, which is going to interact. So it's kind of a three-phase flow, like liquid, vapor, and air. So that is making several complications towards that. And then second part is how it is going to evaporate, whether it will evaporate faster or it will evaporate, it will be evaporating later. Because if it can evaporate quickly with the temperature of the engine cylinder, then you don't have any issue at all. Because this film, if it evaporates, then it will be anyway, it will be in the form of vapor, and then it can undergo combustion. So the problem is it is not evaporating, or the thickness is too large. That is why it is not able to evaporate faster. So you should also have some tools to know the evaporation of this kind of. So, and then finally it will lead to deposit formation, which is not my topic. This is completely chemistry part, which I told like it was a topic of another PhD student. So this was something which is leading to deposit formation, and my point of view was, okay, what are the physics which will lead to deposit form? Because chemistry is out of our control. So once you have this kind of situation, it will anyway undergo this all the chemical reactions and things like that, and it will become deposit. So my objective is to find out a design, do all this research, find out a design, and then try to address this issue. So first point is cavitation erosion. We'll go one by one quickly. So cavitation erosion, like as like when the vapor formation happens when there's a phase diagram. So when in the liquid phase, when you're reducing the pressure, maybe because of acceleration of fluid, there will be drop in the static pressure. Whereas boiling is also very similar. What you're doing is your pressure is constant. You keep on increasing the atmospheric pressure. For example, boiling a container in our at home. I mean, boiling water on the gas. So you will be pressure is always constant, atmospheric pressure. You keep on increasing the temperature. Once it reaches the boiling point, it will be boiling. Similarly, cavitation, you have the temperature constant almost. Okay, but the pressure is suddenly dropping down because of fluid acceleration inside these tiny geometries like injector holes and all. So what will happen is when the vapor, the pressure reaches below its vapor pressure, then bubble formation starts. The problem with the cavitation is it is going to erode the material. The bubbles will be going near to the metal part and it will erode the material. So when it is coming to modeling this cavitation in the industry point of view, it is very difficult. For example, the research for industry, this also you have to keep in mind is like industry cannot afford to have several millions of cells, or you cannot have very complicated simulations as well, because you cannot use it for daily purpose in the company. Companies are limited with the computing resource, unlike the universities, because universities are public funded, and in the universities you have very big computing resource. So for example, there is already a cavitation erosion methodology established by TU Munich, or the Technical University Munich in Germany, but that requires, it's known as Khartoum, and that requires supercomputer, and industries cannot afford. Maybe they can give a project to do this university and do it for once, but you cannot do it for a day-to-day activity. So and there are, if something is available, that was also very not very accurate. So you need something which is fast, but you need to also have all the physics involved. So in that way, I developed an algorithm where you will capture the bubble collapse which is happening inside this injector nozzles and all. And this is I'm not going in detail about this algorithm, and just wanted to show that there is some algorithm behind this which captures the bubble collapse based on some logic. Okay, so that was implemented in very basic design to test with a radial nozzle with a very water as the fluid, very simple geometry, whether it is working or not. Then it was there was already a paper available in the literature, so it is, I don't need to test it again, make an experiment and test, and so that methodology is already working. So you can see this is already working with a simple geometry. So then from there it was extended for a complicated geometry, which is quite complicated, like, so for example, a diesel control chamber, where the diesel is also a complicated fluid. It's a multi-component fluid, plus it is the additional complication here is the geometry is very small, tiny geometry, 100 micrometer and things like that. And also you have very high pressure, like 2000 bar. So the testing purpose was whether it can withstand this kind of extreme condition, as well as can it work for tiny geometry as well. So this was also tested, and this methodology works. And this was also experimentally. I mean, also we did experiments to find out where it is really, can you capture the, because you can see the vapor is all forming inside this region. In the there is some kind of a valve or some orifice. Vapor formation happens in the orifice, but the collapse of the bubble happens somewhere else, and the erosion is happening somewhere else. And so you can see inside this there are some spring in the control chamber. The spring, it gets eroded, the spring is getting damaged. So that is all able to capture in the CFD simulation. So you can see these are all the high pressure regions where the spring is getting damaged. And some control wall body is that the tip of the wall body only gets eroded. That you can see also from the microscopic, the electron microscope image. I mean, sorry, yeah. So there you can see this kind of the erosion happening in the. So this is something which is now tested and proved. Now this was now extended for cleaning purpose. So for GDI engine, so the geometry is a little bit different. So a cleaning coefficient was introduced, where you can see that wherever this kind of erosion is going to happen, kind of because the cavitation inside GDI injector is mild because of the pressure, because there is a low pressure application. So the erosion is a little bit mild. So we are using it for the cleaning purpose. So you can see the location where it is going to self clean. So you have a coefficient wherein which you can say, okay, now since that is established, now you can have several design variations. For example, you can have some rounding on the nozzle hole, some 10 micron, 20 micron. So you can, and some kind of, you can also have some kind of a V shape, or you call it as conicity. So you can have some conicity involved. So any kind of design variations are possible, and now the methodology is already established. Now after all this research, you created a design methodology, and with this design methodology, you can say that, okay, design number 1 or 2 or 3 is better. For example, here you can see the cleaning coefficient is good when the rounding radius is something like 10 micron or something in this range. So that means this is going to improve the cleaning when you have some design changes. So now, from the research point of view, it was first all CFD was used for the research purpose, to understand the things and to learn. I mean, to understand all the physics. From there, you can also translate it for the design, day-to-day design point of view. So you can change your design, and you can also with the newly established methodology, you can say, okay, design number so and so is better. So that is all about cavitation part. The next part is all about thin formation. And as I told, there was no methodology available at that point of time, and there was no literature as well how this kind of thin film is formed. So, but with some kind of very simple geometry, for example, some X-ray measurements are being done. So there was no CFD methodology to capture it, but very expensive X-ray measurements done at. So this is done at Argonne National Lab in USA. So where they have a very powerful X-ray machine where you can pass through this aluminum, and also you can the power is in such a way that you can also capture or see what is happening inside fluid, whether there is bubbles or there are how the liquid is. So they have a very sophisticated setup there, which is very expensive, and it is not like normal X-ray setup in our hospital or something like that. It's like a very big facility altogether to create this kind of. So they pass through this X-rays through this aluminum or this metal parts, and through that you can also visualize the liquid, what is happening inside the liquid. So with that, there were some experiments being done. So what we did was, and inside our own company, we also published some paper where we could see also some kind of tip. You can see this is a spray, and at the tip of the injector there is some liquid being formed, and some bubbles are formed. So these are all the things which we are observing. So when it came for CFD point of view, this experimentally you have seen it, but you don't have a CFD method to really capture it. There is no way to capture, because first of all there are a lot of complications. needle is moving, and these are all very, very tiny designs in microns. So there are these are some of the issues which were there. So again, it comes in the research mode. Research mode means you are going to apply more time, you are going to put a lot of research, you are going to use high computing facilities and all those things to establish a design methodology. Okay, so this will again run for, so for example, this was done with a very simple geometry to start with 3-hole injector where some experiments are already done. So you can validate your model. The first stage, as I told, whenever you are doing CFD simulation, you need to validate with the experiment to establish that your methodology is correct. So these are somewhere like the experimental result on the right hand side, where you are capturing the this is a cavitation happening inside the nozzle hole. So you are seeing same kind of structure there, the same kind of thickness and things like that. So you see in hole number 2, instead of what you see here, it is the vapor. So in hole number 2, it is you are seeing air being trapped inside. So it's a multi-phase flow involving air, liquid, and air, liquid, and vapor. So you can really validate it with the help of experiment. That's what I wanted to give as a big picture from this slide. And also you can do this additional validation on the quantitative point of view, like the thickness is also coming closer to the experiment, and also the axial velocity is also closer to the experiment. So this what it will help us is this will give you a confidence. Okay, my methodology is working fine, because this is a completely new methodology where the needle is closing, and needle closing at 1 micrometer. It is going to stop at one point of time. Then you have 3 phases, like you see here. When the needle is going to close, this end of injection, you see this blue color. This is all air which is coming from the engine cylinder, and then it gets trapped inside. And whatever you see, nothing. So this initially you see the green color. This is vapor. So that vapor will be replaced with air coming from the engine cylinder, and it will be filled inside. So this is again a very complicated phenomenon which is happening, and the remaining part is all liquid, which is not shown any other color inside this sac. Sac volume is some. So you can see here, this is the sac volume. So these bubbles are all the air being trapped inside. This is exactly what you also see in the experiment. This is the X-ray experiment. So we can validate it. It is coming closer to that, and then you can say that I defined a new index called a purging index, where in which if you are able to remove everything out of it with the help of air, so all the liquid is gone out with the help of when air is coming in, then that injector is going to be perfect. That is going to be the best design, because then what will happen is later on there won't be any leakage, and it won't be wetting the tip of the injector. So for example, here this is a mechanism of tip wetting. So this is the spray. Once the spray is finished, you see that liquid is going to wet on the tip of this injector, because it is getting trapped inside the sac volume. So in the beginning itself, you should be able to remove everything. So these are different views, and you can the advantage is from CFD you don't need experiments to really know the thickness variation. You from the CFD you can do whatever post processing you do, and I could see that the thickness profile on the tip of this injector is something in this order, like 10 to 30 micrometer. 10 to 30 micrometer thick film is getting formed on the tip of the injector during this so which if you imagine, I mean, if you remember in the beginning, I showed there is yellow flame. So yellow flame, the indication was there is something happening at the injector tip. Maybe it was wetting. That was the intuition, and don't know the thickness of it. Now with the help of CFD simulation, you know the range of thickness. So this is somewhere in this 30 micrometer, 40 micrometer range. So now the thing now. As I mentioned earlier, this is a purging index, and if you have 100% purging, you can say that this injector design is going to be better. So this complete design methodology is made now, and now this methodology you can use it to optimize your design. So again, this has come to the design point of view. You can have number of holes to improve it. You can have better rounding, several other. You can place the hole inside the sac. You can place it away from the sac. So these are all the design point of view, how to improve the design. So when you change the design, you can improve the purging index to a quite high extent. So now the third stage was evaporation. So thin film evaporation, again CFD. So here no more tools, no more CFD tools. You have to do yourself with the help of some programming. You have to go back to basics. Then I developed my own evaporation model, and which was again experimentally validated. We did experiments to validate it with by spraying it on a plate, then uh, and heating the plate at several temperature with different components. I mean, I'm not going deep into all these models. So at the end, you can have your own 1D model with the help of, I just programmed it in MATLAB. And based on these experiments, I fine tune my model constants, because this is again completely new model, because this is based on fixed law, but I improvised it with some concentration boundary layer, etc. So, and it ended up with a model constant, but that model constant was fixed based on the experiment. So, did experiment with a single component like N-hexane, isooctane, N-decane, kind of different fuel, and then made a surrogate of gasoline out of these three fuels, so that it will mimic the way in which how a gasoline or petrol will behave. So that was done, and then I mean, I'm not going in deep to these slides, but you can see that the lighter components will be evaporating much faster. The heavier component will be evaporating much more slower. So what happens is, from this 30 micrometer thickness which you saw on the tip of the injector, it is not going to really evaporate everything. So that was the idea for this evaporation model. So this is not going to evaporate faster, because you have 20 millisecond time gap between injection and combustion, around that time. So ideally you have to evaporate everything in that 20 millisecond time. So if you are not able to evaporate, it will remain as liquid, and then that liquid will anyway form deposits. So our idea, okay, whether it is evaporating or not, for that purpose we did or I made this evaporation model, and then it was tested. It was shown that it is not evaporating. So only way is to have improve the purging, and also maybe increase the temperature of the tip to somehow, because that can be done by pushing the injector a little bit deeper inside the engine, and so many other ways it can be done. So you can see at the end, after that, once this is all these design things are established, I did several testing on different designs for. I just wanted to show you two designs. So this is the design one, which was the earlier design, and this is design B, which was the later point of time. And this was tested on the real engine, and it was you can see that particle number is quite low for design B. This has improved a lot, and it is much better injector nozzle design at that, after all these design variations. And you can see the tip wetting. This is again experiment. You see that there is nearly no wetting on the tip, and so nozzle B was very good design after all these variations. And also you see nozzle B, there is a lot of cavitation cleaning. So this is the red area is all, it is all self-cleaning. So this design is in such a way that this is all cleaning itself, all this deposit. Even if deposit forms, it will clean by itself. So these are all the design variations done for this particular nozzle design. So I'm not keeping all the design intricacies or the details on this, and just wanted to compare and show you that this can be achieved after you do all this fundamental research. So again, particle number on nozzle B is quite much better, and when the cleaning coefficient is very high. So the conclusion is basically all these phenomena are separately studied as a research topic, and then out of this you have developed a design methodology, and that design methodology is used for applying or improving the design. So this is a typical industrial application, and it will be the same way if you are dealing with any other application in industry, like very complicated geometry design or very complicated new product development design. So this will be the research path, because at the end of this research, it will be also becoming a research, I mean, as a design module or a routine design module at the end of this. Okay, so CFD is an important tool in R&D for the product development in the industry, for both the research as well as the design activities. So from that, I conclude. So these were some of the visible outputs, like few journals, few conferences, and few patents, which came out of all this research. So thank you very much for your attention. So, and if you have any question, please feel free to ask.
Participants, if you have any questions, please type in the chat box.
Which CFD solver is best for?
Which CFD
Okay,
solver?
one question is, which CFD solver is best for chemical reaction modeling?
Okay, it depends. Actually, chemical reaction in which application? For example, in combustion point of view, in IC engine, people are using Converge and AVL fire. And AVL fire is very good in chemistry point of view for engine applications. But I mean, if you are thinking about any general purpose chemistry point of view, I mean, then I think Fluent is very good because you can really modify several things inside, and it's very user friendly. You can do with the help of UDFs all this chemistry point of view. I mean, chemical kinetics and all those things you can do in that.
Another question is,
if it is pure
can we
academic,
implement CFD modeling for oxygen analysis in combustion control of boiler section?
I don't know. This is not my topic. I'm sorry. I mean,
From Ganapati Srinivas.
Yeah, I mean, the chemistry point of view. My area is multi-phase flow, but I'm not a chemical engineer, so I don't have much knowledge in that area. But ideally, everything can be done because you have this. So anything. See, for example, whatever I have shown you here, these are not available. If at all it is not available in the solver, you can always go for this additional UDFs. So you can write your own codes, and everything can be implemented with the help of UDFs if it is about Fluent. And in the same way, if you are using OpenFOAM, everything you can do because your solver itself is given to you, and there is no hiding. But even in Fluent, several things are hidden. So if you don't have proper support from the support engineers from ANSYS, they may not be sharing you the right macros which can be used for certain applications. So because there may be, if you need some variable, you may need a macro, but sometimes that macro will not be there in the user manual. It will be hidden. So you have to ask for it and do it. So yeah, if you are implementing it in Fluent, you have this kind of difficulty, but can be definitely done with the help of UDFs. But if you are thinking about OpenFOAM, and academic point of view, everything is there. It is up to you, like how you applying your chemistry or your chemical engineering background to in the form of programming. So ideally it should be done, but as I told, I'm not a chemical engineer, so I don't have much knowledge about how to do it.
Okay, any other questions? Please. So I think there is no more questions. So Abubakar sir, please.
Thank you, Sandeep.
Thank you, sir.
So you have done a good session. That is, you have illustrated the CFD as a research tool in an industry, taking your own case. So thank you for sharing such a wonderful research to all of us, so that we got an insight how the CFD is useful in analyzing the micro-sized devices, such as injector. So
Thank
we think that I feel that all of the participants might have benefited by attending this lecture. Okay, thank you, Sandeep.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for inviting me. And it was always a pleasure to come back to my college every time. Thank you very much for inviting.
Thank you.